공공장소 매너 함께 지켜주실 거죠? 공익광고 협의회.
The time is now 7 o'clock.
Of May, it is winding down, which means we are approaching kind of the end of the first half of the year. But an unwelcome change we'll see once the calendar, that page, we turn that over. Well, another rise in prices. Ooh, not good. Common everyday food items, ranging from things like dried seaweed, soy sauce, and snacks. Well, we're going to see a price hike in all of those kinds of products. So summer is approaching fast, and we're going to have to brace ourselves for, yet again, higher bills at the grocery store. I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave of Busan on Tuesday, May 28th on befm, 부산영어방송. Good morning, Wavers. I hope you are all doing well. Taking a little peek out the window today. See some clouds. However, hoping that the sun will peek through real soon. So I will give you the update on that in just a little bit. Well, what are we talking about as our main story? I wish it could be flowers and just good news all the time. But, this is reality. This is Morning Wave in Busan. We got to tell you like it is. Well, the series of price hikes, it's just seemingly never ending at this point. And we have another round coming up in June, next month. So according to those in the industry, these price hikes in grocery chains and convenience stores will begin in full next month. Which items am I talking about? Well, Sempyo Foods, which is the biggest soy sauce manufacturer in the country, is raising the price of its products by nearly 8%, and that's coming around mid-June, citing a spike in raw ingredients and production prices. Experts say other soy sauce companies will likely follow suit. Experts are also saying that kim, or dried seaweed prices, are on the up and up as well. People are calling it kimflation at this point. Dongwon F&B saying that it is raising its prices by 15%. So snacks like cookies and chips and candy, well, they're going to go up as well, as Lotte Wellfood announced a hike in its retail prices. And that's going to go into effect starting June 1st. That's just in a few days, actually. And even non-food items, what are we talking about? Things like razors, batteries, we're going to see an uptick in prices in those products as well. But the thing about these price hikes is that it's just, at least it seems to regular common folk like us, like me, like you, that it just continues, like little increments of here, 5% here, 8% there. It's just adding up, really. And the price of, ingredients and materials and products go up. What do we see? We see a price in restaurant menus. Yes, definitely. Eating out, that's going to be expensive or more expensive as well. All these little things, they really do add up, and it's going to hit us hard, so we're going to have to brace ourselves. Well, for our topic, the news is pretty depressing, what we're talking about this morning. So let's go positive for our text topic. Here we go. Tell us about random acts of kindness or consideration that you have done for someone else, or something maybe you've wanted to do, maybe have not, but you've thought about it. What is it that you've done that's really, kind of going out of your comfort zone? But mind you, it doesn't have to be something really major. It could be something minor. 오늘은 긍정의 힘. 네, 한번 가보겠습니다. 누군가를 위한 배려, 착한 행위를 한 적이 있다. 하는 경험을 나눠보고 있습니다. 없다면 남을 위한 어떤 배려를 하고 싶은지 생각해보는 그런 시간을 지금 가져볼 건데요. 그리고 원하시면 이름 I will not call your name. 이름 안 불러 드릴게요. It's up to you. And by the way, when I talk about acts of kindness, it can be something really minor, like opening the door or keeping the door open for the person behind you. Or how about being in like an elevator? I know some people, let's face it, some people kind of press the closed door. But no, you say, hey, you know what? I hear somebody coming after me. I'm going to press the open door, keep the doors open. Those are really simple little things. But hey, on the receiving end, that is really, really nice. So that's what we're talking about today. You can send in your messages through BFM's live stream, live chat on YouTube, pound 9050. That's going to cost you 100 won. You can reach me for free through Kakao Talk. And you can listen to our program in so many different ways, including, once again, the YouTube channel, live, or you can watch at your leisure again. And we have our Patbang app, of course, if you still have traditional radios or in your car, 90.5, 103.3 FM. Looking ahead to our morning together, we have our Tuesday lineup. We have Andrew for Sports Insider, Bonnie with The Health, and we have two special interviews planned for hour number 2. First up, we're going to talk about, remember, yes, there was a Trilateral summit yesterday, so the South Korea, Japan, China summit. What happened? What went down? What do we need to know that's going to affect us, especially here on the Peninsula? Also, for a second special interview, we're going to talk about that ICC warrant request for the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Of course, that is in conjunction with the Hamas leader as well. But we're going to find out about all of this in hour number 2, and I'll be back with today's headlines. It is now 7:06, and these are today's headlines. North Korean spy satellite launch fails in mid-air explosion. North Korea said that its latest attempt to launch a new rocket carrying a military reconnaissance satellite ended in failure due to the mid-air explosion of the rocket during the first stage flight. South Korea, Japan, and China reaffirmed commitment to Korean Peninsula peace. During this session, President Yoon and Prime Minister Fumio Kishida denounced the North satellite launch plan, while China's Li Qiang took a more subdued tone, calling on all related countries to exercise restraint to mitigate tensions. South Korean military stages air drills in response to North Korea's planned satellite launch. Around 20 fighter jets, including F-35A stealth fighters, conducted the drills in a central region south of a no-fly zone near the inter-Korean border, the Joint Chiefs of Staff said. Rival parties at odds as end of 21st National Assembly nears. The ruling and opposition parties continue to disagree on the National Pension Reform Plan and a bill mandating a special counsel investigation into the military response to a Marine's death. Police probe requested on alleged coercion for collective action at medical schools. The Education Ministry has requested police investigate allegations that students at 3 medical schools were coerced into joining a collective action to boycott classes and file for a leave of absence. These are today's headlines. It's now time for Busan Updates. We have Haley in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. So first for our text topic, we're going to talk about something positive. We need something positive as we're talking about price hikes and not such great news all the time. So acts of kindness. What have you done, whether it's minor or major?
Very minor, but last week I was on the bus going to my other job after this, and then this guy comes in, he scans his card, but it says the card, it just can't be used. So he scans it multiple times. Sure. For some reason, it just doesn't work. So he was trying to get off the bus at the next stop. So I just gave him my card, my extra card, and I was like, just pay for this. Yeah, so I paid for his bus fare. And he was so nice. He's like, oh, I can wire you the money. And I was like, it's what, 1,501. Like, don't worry about it.
But still,
it
that's
did go up, so it was like 1,600.
right.
But yeah,
Still,
yeah.
that's really nice because I mean, if that happened to me for whatever reason, I'd be like really nervous and like kind of sweating and
Right.
like, what do I do? What do I do? Right?
Because I've also like been that person where I just couldn't find my card. Like I knew it was in my bag, but I also carry giant bags. So
Yes.
I was like fumbling through my bag, and it's so uncomfortable. So I
Right.
was like, well, and also that bus comes like every half an hour. So I was like, well, if you get off, you're gonna have to wait 30 minutes.
Oh, that's really, really kind of you. Thanks for sharing. All right, we're going to jump into our first update. It is official. Busan is going to get flights to Bali and Jakarta, right?
I am so excited,
Yes.
and we're going to start submitting our vacation plans. So,
We're
the
leaving.
Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, and Transport, it announced that it has distributed the transportation rights to 11 domestic airlines to Indonesia and Mongolia. So, after this, the airline carriers will go through the necessary preparations and launch these flights. So, the Land Ministry agreed with Indonesia to create 7 new flights between regional Korean airports and Bali. So, with the new distribution, Air Busan gets 4 flights between Busan and Bali.
Okay.
And then between Busan and Jakarta, there will be 3 weekly flights from Air Busan and 4 from Chin Air. And there will also be 4 flights between Busan and Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, and 3 from Chin Air and 1 from Jeju Air as well.
Nice, nice. So, big question. When can we start making plans? When can we travel?
Right. It's like, when can I go online and start buying my tickets? Well, that's uncertain because, well, they have to kind of redistribute the existing aircrafts to allocate and make that schedule.
Okay.
However, Bali is a very popular destination, so the airline will likely work on that schedule as fast as possible. And Bali will be very popular amongst tourists, and Jakarta definitely for businesses.
Indeed. So convenient if we can go directly, right? All right, next, we talked about the star-studded lineup for university festivals. Well, that starts this week, and security is on high alert, right?
Absolutely. So the Busan National University Festival begins today, and that lineup includes New Jeans, G Idol, and Zico. And New Jeans and Zico will also be going to Dongi University.
Right.
So the festival is open to the general public. Students with tickets will be able to go to the inner circle inside the fence or get early entry, and outsiders will be going in later. However, because, how often can we see New Jeans or Zico in
Busan,
Busan?
right.
So there will be huge crowds expected. So the schools are really doing their best for security.
Yes.
So the Busan National University, PNU, has allocated 100 undergrads, 30 graduate students, about 100 faculty members, and more as security guards. Dongi also has 200 people, including students, and they've even hired private security guards. The police will be dispatched as well, and this is actually the first time in Busan that the police will be going into university festivals. So one mobilization unit, which is between 60 and 80 officers per school.
My goodness. But once again, security, safety of the utmost importance.
So yeah,
I'm
please,
going-
if you're going, please follow directions.
Yes, indeed. All right, next up, Busan City has declared its 2024 Ocean Week.
Right. So May 31st is Ocean Day. So we are currently in the Busan 2024 Ocean Week to seek new routes in the maritime industry across public and private sectors.
Yes.
So the opening ceremony took place yesterday, which was attended by Mayor Park Hyung-jun, Oceans and Fisheries Minister Kang Do-hyung, and Chairman Yang Jae-seng of the Busan Chamber of Commerce. And this is actually a major event for industry insiders, including conferences on maritime environment, the economy, an industry leaders summit, and much more.
Yes.
And then on the sidelines for the general public, this is where the Busan Port Festival comes in with the fireworks and drone show, Kim Bum-soo performing, as well as public beach cleanups, microsatellite workshops, and oceanside healing festivals.
Ah, that sounds so good. And, we are a port city. We're Busan,
Of course. So let's
appropriate.
go and enjoy the oceans.
Yes. All right, moving on. There is a major job fair going on today and tomorrow, I hear.
Right. So this is for young people who are looking to work overseas. So that would be, according to the Busan City and Busan Economic Promotion Agency, the Busan Global Job Matching Day takes place today and tomorrow. So it provides overseas job information and matches job seekers to overseas companies looking to hire. So there will be 32 companies participating, and their collective goal is to hire 179 young people. And there will also be expert consultation booths for different countries, interview booths, and much more. So once again, that is today and tomorrow at the Eurasia platform in Donggu.
Yes, we would, of course, love to keep all the youth here. But, of course, it's a free world.
Of course.
So good luck job hunting.
Go expand your horizons.
Yes. All right. And of course, this is a season of festivals. So hot in terms of festivals everywhere right now. And the Busan International Dance Festival, that is kicking off next month, which is real soon.
Right. So the International Dance Festival is actually celebrating its 20th year, and it'll be held across the city. The opening ceremony is next Friday, June 7th at the Cinema Center, along with a special Hungarian circus performance.
Ooh.
Yeah, very exciting.
Yes.
So this year, some 400 dancers from 40 dance companies across 10 countries from Europe, Central and South Americas, and Asia will participate. The performances will be across Haeundae Beach, the Cinema Center, the Citizens Park, Songdo, Yongdosan Park, Yeongdo, and Gwangalli Beach. So basically everywhere. The key is to really activate and spread the dance culture and dance community.
Yes.
And they're actually doing a promotional pre-show on June 2nd. That's this weekend at Citizens Park.
Oh, so you can get definitely like a little preview, a taste of
Exactly.
what's to come. Thank you for the updates, Haley. And now back to you, the listeners. We're talking about random acts of kindness. We can definitely benefit, I think, from doing, receiving. So what's something kind of random, but something nice, and it can be really minor that you have done, that you do for other people? That's what we're looking for. In the meantime, here is your traffic and weather. It is now 7:16. Here's your traffic report. There is some backup being reported on the Dongso overpass from Hwangryong ramp to the old Kaegeum tollgate. It's also looking slow right now on Runo Samsungdaero from Myeongji ramp to Shinho Bridge. Lastly, also congestion reported on Gwanmundaero from Pangnam Tunnel to Baekyang Tunnel. It is 18 degrees right now. You can definitely tell it's going to be cloudy, at least in the morning. Daytime high will go up to 25 degrees, and the sun is expected to shine later on in the day. Looking across the country, though, light rain is forecast for the eastern regions of Gangwon and North Gyeongbuk and parts of Jeonnam and Gyeongnam as well. And this will cause slippery roads and significantly worsened visibility. So please be careful when you drive. This was your traffic and weather for now.
Check this out.
This is Morning Wave Busan.
Everybody, wait a minute.
This is Morning Wave.
Morning Wave.
You are listening to
Morning Wave.
Morning Wave in Busan.
What show is this?
This is Morning Wave in Busan.
Here we go. Morning Wave in Busan.
It's time for News Digest. We're going to dive into our first story with Haley right now. First, let's go over North Korea's spy satellite launch from yesterday. What happened?
Right. So North Korea said that it launched a new rocket with a military spy satellite or reconnaissance satellite, but that it failed due to the mid-air blast of said satellite. Also for South Korea, its Joint Chiefs of Staff detected the rocket being launched southward over the Yellow Sea from the North's Tongsangri area at about 10:44 p.m. last night. So some experts say that the North may have rushed with the launch in order to really time it for the Trilateral South Korea, Japan, China summit that took place yesterday. And then there were also speculations that it may have received help from Russia in terms of the technology. However, unless we can get the debris from the oceans, there will be no way to verify that, at least for now.
Yes, indeed. So that's what we know thus far. Of course, details to follow. And next, a major vote will take place at the National Assembly today.
Right. So one of the last bills for the outgoing parliament that we'll vote on is the special council probe into the military's handling of the Marine Corporal Chess death.
Yes.
So the parliament will convene a session later today to vote on this bill, and parties have been really going at it. So the opposition side, the Democratic Party's position is that most public opinion polls, they do call for a special counsel, and they say that uncovering the truth behind a young Marine's wrongful death and accusations of unfair their power, they're not matters for partisan debate. And they're also encouraging more people-power party lawmakers to vote outside the party line. That's because 4 lawmakers, 안철수, 유이동, 김웅, and Choi Jae-young, they have already announced that they will be voting yes to override the veto.
I see.
And also the minority 조국 party has been ramping up, especially the impeachment rhetoric, quite a bit as well.
Right. So let's talk about the ruling party.
So all throughout the weekend, the ruling PPP, they were doing last-minute pushes to stop lawmakers from voting out of party line.
Yes.
So they say that apart from these 4 lawmakers, no one else that they've contacted has said that they'll vote in favor of overriding the veto. So the party has adopted voting no on this bill as their official party position and has ordered all lawmakers to attend the floor vote. So there are 295 lawmakers who can physically be there, and the vote needs 2/3 majority to pass. So the magic number will be 17 people from the ruling party to veer away from the party's position in order to launch that special counsel probe.
Right. So we will, of course, give you the details on that as the vote happens today. All right. Next up, starting in July, there will be a limit to how many hospital visits you can take in a year.
But that number is 365.
Okay.
So, yeah, unless you're
Once a
going
day?
every single day.
Right.
So this is far above what's seen as a reasonable number of hospital
Yes.
visits because that may drain the national health insurance funding. So these are some actual real-life cases that has prompted this change.
Okay.
So for one, a patient in their 60s received 1,425 outpatient treatments in a year. So this person went to the doctor's office on 358 days to 19 different institutions, going to 8 different doctor's offices in just one day.
Oh my goodness.
So the patient claims back pain and received 3,779 medical treatments. Right.
Wow.
It's a job. It is a full-time job and then some. So for these individuals, if their outpatient treatment exceeds 365 times per year, then they'll have to foot 90% of the bill. So usually after a national health insurance is applied, the patient pays about 20% of the entire bill.
Right.
And then if you have private insurance, then it's basically near nothing. So this is why health authorities suspect that some patients kind of overuse the medical system.
I mean, I understand some people have chronic pain.
Right.
It's not to discount that, but I mean, I think 365 is still generous. At least once a day you can go, right? Of course, this must be an incredible burden on our medical system.
Right. So back in 2021, there were over 2,500 people who received outpatient treatments on over 365 occasions. So they, the 2,500, collectively spent 25.1 billion won out of the national insurance.
Sure.
So that was an average of 9.8 million won per person, 980만 원. So that's quite a bit.
Sure.
Of course, there will be exceptions, including for minors, pregnant women, people with disabilities, people who have rare illnesses, and serious diseases. So the government will also, because the thing is, though, are you going to count? Are you going to tally how many times you go to the hospital? So the government will make use of the Kakao, Naver app, and also the national health insurance apps to actually alert the patients of how many times they visited the doctor's office per year.
So you can keep track of your
It'll
own
keep
visits?
track of it for you.
For you.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good because, sometimes you forget.
Right, exactly.
Like, when did I go?
Was that
Yes.
last year or this year?
All right. Now we're going to go to the war in Gaza where the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, actually ordered Israel to stop its offenses in certain areas.
Right. So this is different from what you'll be talking about in the special interview. That's the ICC.
Right.
This is the ICJ, the UN's top court. And it has issued a ruling that orders Israel to, quote, immediately halt its military offensive in Rafah. So this actually follows an application that was filed by South Africa, and that accused Israel of a wide range of measures, including genocide. So Israel has vehemently denied the allegations and signaled that it's going to ignore any orders to halt the operation. But the presiding judge ordered Israel to stop its military offenses immediately, saying that this could bring about the physical destruction of the Palestinians. And that kind of alludes to what qualifies as genocide under international law.
I see.
The ruling also reiterated that Israel must let humanitarian aid into Gaza.
Right. So that's the ICJ. But Israel, showed action actually to the contrary.
Right. So just 2 days after it Well, okay, number one, Israel rejected the court's ruling and said that the military offensive in Gaza was in line with international law.
Right.
Its war cabinet minister, Benny Gantz, saying that Israel would continue its offensive, whatever means necessary. And then 2 days later, Sunday, Israel conducted an airstrike at a refugee camp in Rafah. That's specifically against the ICJ ruling. So the Israeli Defense Forces said that it targeted 2 senior Hamas leaders. However, according to the Hamas-run authorities, 45 people had been killed and over 100 injured, including women and children. However, the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, did say just a few hours ago that that was a tragic mishap.
Well, Israel likely won't be punished or held liable under the ICJ, right? Not really
Right.
in any
So this
significant
is
manner.
different from the normal courts of a country because the ICJ can make legally binding rulings in disputes between two countries, in this case South Africa and Israel, but it really has little to no way of enforcing its orders. So there are no immediate consequences for what it did on Sunday. However, then other states could also refer the matter to the UN Security Council, and that would lead to a resolution, even sanctions. However, realistically, the United States, which is Israel's biggest ally, as it has veto power, it may likely use it. However, the thing is, though, we could potentially refer to the America's reaction to the ICC, the criminal court prosecutor requesting an arrest warrant for Benjamin Netanyahu,
Right.
where the U.S. was very President Joe Biden was very outraged. However, an arrest warrant and a call to stop the violence, they're two vastly different things. So we
Indeed.
may have to see how it turns out.
Yes. Well, those are your top news stories, waivers. Thank you, Haley. And we'll check in with her in hour number 2. And with that, we are ready for our first song break. Here it is, My Universe. This is by Coldplay and BTS.
In the night I lie and look up at you. When the morning comes I watch you rise. There's a paradise they couldn't capture, that bright infinity inside your eyes.
매일 밤 내게 날아가 꿈이란 것도 잊은 채 나 웃으며 너를 만나 Never ending forever baby.
어둠이 내게 변했었지. 길어진 그림자 속에서
And the fact that we can't be together Because we come from different sides. You are my universe and I just want to put you first. You are my universe and you make my world light up inside. My universe, my universe, my universe. 나를 밝혀주는 건 너란 사랑으로 수놓아진 별. 내 우주와 넌 또 다른 세상을 만들어주는 걸. 너는 내 별이자 나의 호주니까 지금 이 시련도 결국엔 잠시니까 너는 언제까지나 지금처럼 밝게만 빛나줘. 우리는 너를 따라 이긴 밤을 수놓고 너와 함께 날아가. When I'm without you I'm crazy. 자 어서 내 손을 잡아. We are made of each other baby. You are my universe and I just want to put you first. You are my universe and you make the whole light up inside. My universe, my universe. My universe.
Welcome back, everybody. It is now 7:30 on the dot on this Tuesday morning. Our main story, kind of a heavy one, something that we can all commiserate with. I'm talking about the rise in the cost of living. It doesn't seem like we talk about it like every other week. Well, this trend of increasing prices and interest rates has been going on for a while, and that is really straining household budgets. According to Statistics Korea, 1 in 5 middle-class households actually spent more money than they made in the first quarter of the year. So let's just think about that. The Statistics Office survey showed that 26.8% of all households were in some sort of deficit, meaning that their spending was higher than their disposable income. And what's notable was that this trend increased with middle-class household, and even almost 10% for the top 20% income households too. What does this mean? This really goes to show that, when we do kind of complain to each other, right, that everything goes up except for our wages. This is really being felt across so many different strata of society, across all income levels. Maybe not the uber rich, but I'm talking about anybody, in that vast middle is feeling the pinch right now. And that's why we wanted to talk about something really positive. Random acts of kindness or consideration that you might have done for somebody else. Something that you've thought about, maybe you wanted to do. 너무 자꾸 안 좋은 소식을 전해줘서 제가 미안하네요. Don't kill the messenger. I'm just, telling you as it is. But 오늘은 긍정의 힘 한번 해볼까요? So, 누군가를 위한 배려, 착한 행위를 한 적이 있다. 혹은 생각을 해봤는데 해보고 싶다. What is it? It doesn't have to be big. 큰 거 아니라도, holding the open button on the elevator. Picking up groceries for a sick friend. Something you might think is not too big, but on the receiving end, it can feel kind of major. I was contemplating if I should share this story or not, but I am going to. I don't know if it's random, but recently I was introduced to a student who really has is having difficulties in school and is basically kind of on her own, getting very minimal support from her parents, family circumstances. So she's living on her own. And all she gets from her parents is basically rent and like really, really low amount for monthly like groceries, and that's about it. But she wants to do better in school, and somebody introduced me to her. And actually my daughters, they're the ones who really kind of said, Mom, you got to help her. You got to help her. So actually I've been like for free, just helping her, tutoring her. So it's kind of a big time commitment, but an hour and a half, like pretty much every day I've been helping her. Just privately helping her with whatever schooling. And trust me, my Korean isn't even that good, right? I help her with English. And I help her kind of go through the problems for things like 사회, social studies, things that I can handle. And I feel like she's so grateful. Every little thing in all her actions, whatever. And I told her one day, I hope she passes that on to somebody else. And that's why I'm doing it. So I was really contemplating, should I share that? It's totally not about bragging, but I feel like if we can just do a little to help somebody else, and this is the first time I've really done something like that. So wanted to share with you guys. Anyhow, for now, I'll be back with our hot clip. All right, for today's hot clip, speaking of teenagers, this teenager, well, he has passed away. He did die, but however, the first step toward sainthood may be in the cards for this young person. Let's listen to the clip from CNN.
Well, he's become known as God's influencer. Carlo Acutis, a teenage gamer and computer programmer, is set to be declared the Catholic Church's first millennial saint. Almost 18 years after he died from leukemia aged 15, Pope Francis has recognised a second miracle attributed to Acutis, paving the way for him to be canonised. The London-born Italian teenager was a computer prodigy, and he used his technological skills to spread awareness of the Catholic faith, including a website which documented reports of miracles. Since his death, Acutis' following among Catholics has grown. He's widely seen as a saintly figure who is truly relatable to today's youth. His mother, Antonia Salzano, continues to share the message of her son's life.
And it's a great sign of hope because he told us, as I did, you too can become holy. Nevertheless, all the media, the technologies, it seems sometimes that holiness is something that belongs to the past. Instead, holiness is also nowadays, in this modern time.
Acutis grew up in Milan and, like other kids of his age, he enjoyed video games, sports and making funny films about his family dogs. To declare someone a saint, the Catholic Church normally requires proof of two miracles. The latest miracle attributed to Acutis was the healing of a woman from Costa Rica who suffered a head trauma after falling from her bicycle in Florence in Italy. According to Vatican News, she was cured after her mother prayed at the tomb of Acutis. Acutis was beatified and declared blessed after his first miracle in 2020, with the Vatican approving as miraculous the healing of a Brazilian boy who had a birth defect in his pancreas that made him unable to eat normally. The next step now is for the Pope to hold a meeting of cardinals to sign off on Acutis' sainthood. Then they will pick a date for the canonization.
So once again, some of his followers call him, God's influencer, as he did try to influence so many young people out there. So anyhow, this is pretty major news for the Catholic faith, and that is why I did want to share this. And the fact that, regardless of your faith, that he was doing good for the world. And I'm not even talking about the miracles. I'm not going to get into that. He was actually trying to uplift and encourage young people out there. And that's why they're calling him, influencer. Anyhow, better to be an influencer in a positive way than a negative one. And we see so many bad ones out there. So this was your Hawk Clip for today.
Stay tuned. You're listening to Morning Wave in Busan.
Posing like a model, our sports insider, Andrew. How are you? You look very nice, spiffy in that jacket.
I mean, inside the game. Inside the game. Yeah.
How are you?
Fantastic.
So
Good.
we're talking about random acts of kindness.
Sure.
Just minor. What have you done? What have you done lately for me?
Grace in this world with my presence.
Oh, with your blue eyes.
No, no, it's funny. As you have children as well, we try to teach our children every day to, have good manners, be polite, look out for others, have compassion, these kind of things. Mm-hmm. And I don't know for any other Canadian listen to this, they'll definitely understand what I mean. But as Canadians, we're known for holding the door for people. All right. And not just like, you're behind me, okay, I'll hold the door. If I was at home and someone was like, say, 2 meters away, 3 meters away, even maybe 4 meters away, I might still wait and hold the door.
Wow.
That's also maybe an East Coast thing, but it is definitely a Canadian thing because I know when I go to the U.S., it's not reciprocated.
Not so. I disagree.
Unless there's a doorman or a woman, I don't know, or person. But, when we're at the department store or somewhere like that, I always hold the door. And there's been multiple times where, someone is just right in front of me. They don't even do that, right? Yes. So I always try to teach my kids to do that. So that's my random acts of kindness. But also, I just try to help people. If like in our apartment complex, if someone looks like they're struggling with groceries or something like that, I'll help them along. And usually the response I get at first is kind of like, is this guy trying to take my stuff?
No, really?
But it's kind of like, or I remember, and this almost happens every time I go to Myeongdong in Seoul, is how the amount of tourists that are in that area, there's always a group of people at the bottom of the stairs that they've come out to the wrong exit where there's no escalator or elevator, and they all have their suitcases.
Huge suitcases.
The amount of times I've picked up a massive suitcase usually for women, sorry men, usually for women, or if it's a man with a child or something, and take it up the stairs, and they're like, thank you so much.
That's really sweet.
And then I'm also like, what do you got in there?
It's like some bricks in there. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. You're definitely over the weight limit.
They paid extra.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's very sweet.
I try
and the
my
fact
best.
That you're kind of passing that on to your kids.
Yes.
That means there will be kinder people out there too.
And then my wife looks at me and goes, "Hey, what about me?" And I'm like, yeah,
always right.
Exactly.
It's the fam. All right. What are we talk about for sports?
Well, we're gonna get things started here across the pond. It's playoff season for the NBA and the NHL. Two sports we don't really talk about a whole lot.
Sure.
Unless something really interesting goes on,
happens,
there's not much going on in everything else.
Yes.
Maybe a little mix of both. All right. So it is the conference final in both of the sports. So the Boston Celtics look to clinch the series over the Indiana Pacers in Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, the Celtics defeated the Pacers 114-111 in their last matchup. And I don't want to say it's been, the scores haven't been too far apart, but I mean, they're up 3-0. I mean, or 3-0 in the series. In my own opinion, I think that the Celtics are probably going to win Game 4. I mean, the way things are going here. And Jason Tatum led the Celtics with 36 points, which, I mean, he's just having an unbelievable series. Over on the other side, the Mavericks made all the big plays again on both ends of the court and are one win away from a trip to the NBA Finals, the first time in 13 years for the Mavs. Now, Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving scored 33 points apiece, and Dallas put together a decisive run in the final 5 minutes for a 116-107 win on Sunday night, and they're up 3-0. So both conferences are up 3-0. So if they end up closing out both their series, going into the final, I think it's kind of anyone's game at this point. But when you have Luka on your team, it's kind of it's a cheat code. Some people are calling it. So the Pacers and Celtics game gets underway this morning at 9 a.m. here in Korea, and the Mavs versus Timberwolves tips off tomorrow morning at 9:30.
Oh gosh, I haven't watched a game in so long.
It's the only time I follow basketball. I'll be completely honest.
I used to follow it like throughout the entire season,
yes,
and it's just like more and more, just like.
Drifting away.
Yes. Well, you also mentioned we're going to talk about the NHL.
Yes. So Igor Shesterkin and the New York Rangers are on their way. I don't want to say on their way because they're only up 2-1 here. Alex Wimberg got just enough of a stick to become the hero in Game 3. And just like that, Rangers reclaim home ice advantage in the Eastern Conference Final. He deflected a puck past Sergei Bobrovsky in overtime, the second game in a row that has gone to overtime. And the Rangers survived an all-out barrage by the Florida Panthers in the final minutes. But, a 5-4 victory. They'll take that in 2-1 in the series. Their next game is tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., so kind of the opposite of what we were talking about, the Celtics and Pacers. On the other side, the Oilers are taking on the Edmonton Oilers, are taking on the Dallas Stars, and they saw an opportunity to truly grab hold of the Western Conference Final, and, it ended up not being their way. All right, so it is the Dallas Stars and the Edmonton Oilers have a game apiece going into Game 3, which is this morning at 9:30. And if you ask me, or I don't know if it's Canadian bias here, I definitely want the Oilers to win because a Canadian team hasn't won the Stanley Cup since 1993. It's kind of crazy.
I have a random question for you because I know you used to play hockey, or you still do.
Yeah.
Because you have all that padding on. When we see the gear, it's like you're heavily padded.
Sure.
Does it still hurt when you get hit by a puck?
It depends on where you get hit. I would say the lower half of your body, anywhere in the lower half of your body, unless it's in there. Yeah. Even with a cup on, it's still, you definitely feel it. Oh, definitely, for sure. More of it's like a vibration through your whole body. But in the upper body, there's a lot of holes where you're going to get hit because the padding doesn't cover
everything.
Exactly. Right? But a goalie, the amount of padding a goalie wears these days is insane. I think they could stop a truck.
Really?
Yeah.
So, survivable.
Yes.
Leave it at that.
Well, I hope so.
Yes.
All right.
Let's move on to some national soccer news.
Yeah, so the Korea Football Association, or the KFA, released yesterday the 23-man squad for the upcoming World Cup qualifying contest, which will be against Singapore and China next month.
Sure.
Now, Korea will play their final 2 Group C matches of the second round of the Asian qualifying next month. June 6th, they will face Singapore at the National Stadium in Singapore. And then 5 days later, that's actually kind of a big break. Usually it's a little sooner than that.
Yes.
A little quicker. Korea will host China at the Seoul World Cup Stadium in Seoul.
Sure.
Now, there was a bit of a shakeup here because there's 7 new faces to the squad. Now, a lot of people have been asking for this. Well, maybe a lot of people are asking for a new manager.
Like a permanent one?
Yeah, because it hasn't happened.
Right.
All right. So a lot of people are curious about this, who these 7 players are. But some of them they're going to know because the group includes Oh Se-hoon of Machida Selvia, midfielder Bae Jun-ho of Stoke City, defenders Hwang Jae-won of Daegu FC, and Chae Jun of FC Seoul. Now, some of these players, especially the European ones that are going to join, were some of those players that they were hoping to go to the Asian Cup that weren't released from their teams. So they may have gotten a call up then, but it wasn't to the official senior team, you know what I mean, for that sense. So, it'll be interesting to see, and hopefully they can integrate them into the team quite quickly.
Well, the team also going to be without some of the familiar names.
Yeah,
because of.
Yeah, no, the I don't know if you want interim, take care of manager, whatever you want to say. Kim Do-hoon, he said that Kim In-jae will not be there. Recently suffered a left ankle injury while playing for Bayern Munich in Germany. And while Cho, who has recently finished his season in Denmark with Midtjylland, is scheduled to undergo surgery to address a nagging knee injury. So
he had done well in that league, though. He was like the joint,
he's doing
goals,
very exactly. But I think it's good for him to do this now, for the simple reason that, knock on wood, they shouldn't, with everyone they have, it shouldn't, the test shouldn't be too bad.
Sure.
With, all the points they have already.
However.
I know what you're going to say.
하지만.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't get ahead of ourselves here.
Right.
Don't put the cart ahead of the carriage, ahead of the horses. But, with, the regulars in there, with your Lee Kang-ins, and your Son Heung-mins and these kind of guys, hopefully it should be okay. And I think actually, in my own opinion, for Kim In-jae, the end of the season didn't end so well for him. It wasn't a good season for him overall in Germany after leaving, the Serie A in Italy.
I mean, at top of his game,
it was
accolades.
It was the top defender in Italy.
Right.
People thought he was, top 5 in Europe, and that Bayern Munich were getting this, unbelievable defender. Which it's not to say he's not, and also former manager Jurgen Klinsmann was on ESPN, and he was saying, because they were asked him about it, you used to coach him.
Right.
And he said, just having a struggle, everyone goes through these times in their careers, and he'll get through it. And he's mentally strong and physically strong, obviously, we know that. So he'll get through that. So it's nice to hear that from an old manager as well, and hopefully he'll be okay.
Right. Okay. So
we're going to move on.
Yes.
Kind of a tragic story here from the PGA Tour. I kind of debated bringing this in, but I think it is very important to talk about this stuff when it happens.
I agree.
To bring awareness to it. And we're going to get to a clip that kind of describes it.
Golf world stunned and saddened by the news yesterday that Grayson Murray had died, 2-time winner on the PGA Tour, most recently at the Sony Open in Hawaii. At the time, he openly shared that he had dealt with anxiety, depression, and alcoholism, and that his hope was that he could inspire people going forward. He withdrew late in his second round on Friday at Colonial Country Club in Fort Worth, citing illness. Murray family releasing this statement this morning. We would like to thank the PGA Tour and the entire world of golf for the outpouring of support. Life wasn't always easy for Grayson, and although he took his own life, we know he rests peacefully now. Please respect our privacy as we work through this incredible tragedy, and please honor Grayson by being kind to one another. If that becomes his legacy, we could ask for nothing more. Thank you.
the thing is that there was a lot as soon as the news hit. I mean, I saw it on my feed and I was just like, whoa. And then people were speculating in the beginning, but his parents confirmed through a statement right away.
They came out and said it right away, which is
that
something
was really commendable.
Yeah, it doesn't usually happen like that.
Right.
And, I can imagine how hard that was for the family.
Sure.
But I also think because of the struggles he was going through, they wanted to bring awareness to it.
Yes.
And I don't want to say that they want to use the spotlight at the time to bring awareness, but I think that's exactly what happened here. And, they were in the middle of, it was the Charles Schwab Challenge in Fort Worth, Texas, and he withdrew on Friday.
Yes.
So he would have been talking to all of his friends on tour the day before, that day even,
right.
And when they got the news, the PGA Tour, they weren't sure what to do. They thought they were going to cancel the event, and then his family said, listen, he would not have wanted that. He would have wanted you to play. And he asked them, and it was really interesting. They asked him, if you're going to do anything, could you wear black armbands or red armbands or black ribbons or red ribbons? So, the ribbons that are typically worn for, breast cancer awareness, these kind of things, is what players were wearing. And it was black and red because, and we were talking about the NHL before, he was a big Carolina Hurricanes fan from the NHL, and he is from Raleigh, South Carolina. So, it was... They did that, and everybody, all the players had it on. A lot of players did come out and, especially on social media, putting out posts, and a lot of players taking a chance to use this to bring awareness to this, and certain players who have struggled with anxiety and mental health issues, and to put out phone numbers and websites and things like that. And I think the ultimate goal here from the parents when they said, if anything comes of this, we want everyone to be nice to one another. And if that is his legacy, we are happy with that. And I think that's quite commendable, as you said, to the parents. And also, if you are somebody out there who's struggling with any anxiety, stress, mental health, and depression,
Yes.
there are so many options out there for you. And please make sure in your area, it's a quick search away and you have a number, or try to talk to a family or friend.
Yes, indeed. And that goes to show, his win was just a few months back, as we were saying. You cannot tell on the surface if a person is struggling, if they're depressed, because on the outside they might be still smiling, going through the motions.
Yeah, for sure.
And for someone who has depression, it's not always just like doom and gloom all the time.
No.
Sometimes, on the surface, they seem okay.
And really, a lot of people would say, how could it be when you win, you win a title, in a playoff, and you think you're on top of the world,
right.
But then the next day you don't know what demons come your way. You know what I mean? So, so to his family, we support you, and also to the PGA Tour, they're doing a great effort here to support their players and for the cause as well.
Well, we're going to call it a wrap on all the sports news today. We will check in with you next week, though. Thank you so much, Andrew.
All right. Have a great week.
All right. Well, we're going to get to our final song of hour number one. This is a song request from Taejin Waver, 지중해 by Park Sang-min. So enjoy this one, and we'll be back at 8.
내려오는 달빛을 본다. 별빛 같은 네온이 깊은 밤을 깨워보지만 죽음보다 더 깊은 젊은 날은 눈을 감은 채 돌아 누웠지. 숨을 죽이며 울고 있었지. 천년 같은 하루와 모든 걸 빼앗아가고 한숨 속에 살다가 사라지는 나를 보았지. 나는 내가 누군지 기억조차 할 수가 없어. 나를 데려가 할 수 있다면 너의 곁으로 돌아가는 길에 나를 내려줘. 나는 내가 사는 곳에 가진 않을래. 돌아오는 길은 너무 멀지만 더 이상은
Busan more of my home. Through the dialect, I feel the warm charm that no other city can mimic. Global City Busan. We are in it together. This campaign is brought to you by befm 부산영어방송.
The time is now 8 o'clock.
It's morning!
And what a lovely morning!
Dynamic Busan.
Good morning!
Good morning!
Good morning!
Good morning.
Hello, Shelby.
What show is this?
Hello!
Hello, baby.
Hey, buddy.
Hello, everybody.
Live from Korea's dynamic city, this is Morning Wave in Busan.
It is now 8 o'clock. This is news highlights. North Korean spy satellite launch fails in mid-air explosion. North Korea said that its latest attempt to launch a new rocket carrying a military reconnaissance satellite ended in failure due to the mid-air explosion of the rocket during the first stage flight. The Vice General Director of the North's National Aerospace Technology Administration said the rocket carrying the satellite, the Malling-yong-1-1, exploded after it lifted off from the Sohae satellite launching ground on the country's northwest coast yesterday, according to the state media. A preliminary examination by experts from the North's Launch Preparatory Committee concluded that the accident was attributable to the operational reliability of a new liquid oxygen plus petroleum engine, the official said. South Korea, Japan, and China reaffirm commitment to Korean Peninsula peace. President Yoon Suk-yeol, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, and Chinese Premier Li Chang reaffirmed their commitment to promote peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula during their summit in Seoul yesterday. During the session, Yoon and Kishida denounced the North satellite launch plan from earlier in the day as a violation of the UN Security Council resolutions that ban its use of ballistic missile technology. China's Li took a more subdued tone, calling on all related countries to exercise restraint to mitigate tensions while avoiding a direct mention of North Korea. The Trilateral session discussed ways to promote cooperation in 6 specific areas: economy and trade, sustainable development, health issues, science and technology, disaster and safety management, and people-to-people exchanges. South Korean military stages air drills in response to North Korea's planned satellite launch. South Korea's military staged an air exercise yesterday near the border with North Korea in response to the North's launch of a military spy satellite. Around 20 fighter jets, including F-35A stealth fighters, conducted the drills in a central region south of a no-fly zone near the inter-Korean border, the Joint Chiefs of Staff said. Pyongyang has made public a plan to launch 3 more satellites this year, following its first military reconnaissance satellite launch in November. Rival parties at odds as end of 21st National Assembly nears. The ruling and opposition parties continue to disagree on the National Pension Reform Plan and a bill mandating a special counsel investigation into the military's response of a Marine's death. The main opposition Democratic Party, or DP, has called for the passing of the pension reform plan during a plenary session scheduled for today, the final session before the current National Assembly's term expires. The ruling People Power Party, or PPP, said that rushing the pension bill without national consensus will be met with strong resistance, while the DP stressed the importance of the golden time. Police probe questioned on alleged coercion for collective action at medical schools. The Education Ministry has requested police investigate allegations that students at 3 medical schools were coerced into joining a collective action to boycott classes and file for a leave of absence in protest against a medical school quota hike. The ministry was informed about coercion at 3 medical schools to pressure students into participating in the collective action and has subsequently requested the police investigate the 3 schools. The request came as many medical students have not gone to classes for nearly 3 months and have collectively filed for leave from school. This was News Highlights. It's time for Issue Wa글와글. Haley's back in the studio with us.
Hello again.
Yes, so I heard that you have a couple of stories from the military that may point to some harsh treatment going on like within the ranks.
Right, so one from happening currently and one from the past. But according to the Republic of Korea Army, a recruit in training has passed out during disciplinary training, and he was brought to the hospital but died 2 days later. So according to the Army, 6 recruits in training were getting disciplinary action or disciplinary training on May 23rd in the afternoon when one passed out. So what we mean by this disciplinary training, it's a type of physical and mental training to instill a sense of discipline within soldiers, basically punishment. It's colloquially called 얼차려 in Korean.
Yes.
And it is done as a form of punishment or rectification. So the military's Human Rights Center said that it received a report that these 6 trainee soldiers were disciplined for talking at night after lights out. So they were disciplined the following day. And they were apparently in full gear and were running laps on the training field and were doing push-ups as well. The other soldiers noticed that one man did not look well. They reported it to the officer on the scene, but no action was apparently taken. So the Army expressed its condolences to the families and said that it will provide all the necessary institutional support, as well as saying that it is working with the police to look into the cause of the death. And they say that it does seem like there were circumstances that did not meet the standards or regulations. So something was going on, but that it cannot speak on an ongoing investigative matter.
Right, and not all the details have emerged yet, but I mean, it's like a parent's worst nightmare.
Right.
You send your son off to, be conscripted into the military, and all you do is pray and hope for their safe return, right?
Right, and the whole point in the recent years is that, they're saying, the military was saying that we don't really do harsh discipline, or, we've improved human rights, and then this happens.
Yes. Well, in another case involving the Army, a non-active defense soldier drowned at a reservoir apparently 30 years ago, but the circumstances surrounding his death are now just coming to the surface.
So back in June of 1985, back then we called them 방위병 defense soldiers, basically similar to a non-active alternative service member.
Okay.
He drowned in a reservoir near an army unit in Changsong County in Jeonnam. The army back then said that he went into the water to catch fish for his ailing father. So he just went in on his own volition and died of cardiac arrest. However, the family refused to believe that, especially because he was just conscripted a month ago. So he was pretty much a newbie. And I mean, if you think of the 80s, the military was even harsher than it is. It was very harsh. So it seemed odd that he would go into the water by himself. So 30 years later, the family made a request for the case to be looked into again. And the military's Death or Accident Truth Investigation Committee found out that the deceased was actually with his superior to throw trash away near the reservoir. And apparently the superior office ordered the man, who was at the time the youngest person in the unit, to go into the water and put out a fishing net, and which is when he drowned. So he had to go into the water at the order of his superior, which obviously the military back then falsified his death records and covered it up.
So it wasn't even of his own volition or for personal reason or for his father. That was all a cover-up.
It was all a cover-up, right. So after this was revealed in 2022, the military acknowledged that the soldier died on duty. The family then filed a damages suit against the military, and the court recently ruled that the government has to pay 410 million won in damages. However, I mean, Sure, that is not a small amount of money, but number one, it took 37 years for the deceased to recover his honor. And by the way, his parents, who were heartbroken because the whole excuse was that he was trying to catch fish for his ailing father.
Yes.
Well, the parents died without ever getting to see this.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
So horrible things happened in the past.
Yes, indeed. Well, here's hoping that it doesn't happen.
Right.
It still doesn't happen. And
right.
we need to prevent things like this. All right, next up. Police have apprehended a man who apparently made over 100 false police reports. Is this true?
Right. So this man in his 50s in Kumi is facing multiple obstruction of justice charges. Well, most recently on May 25th, he made a false report to the police saying that he thinks he killed someone. So this isn't just like a light prank call. It was serious. So this resulted in a huge waste of the police force because many officers were dispatched to the scene. He also made similar calls last year and said that a friend is threatening him with a knife and etc. that he thinks he killed someone. Over 100 accounts in total.
Oh my goodness, this is kind of like very extreme, but of course this isn't the only type of case we've seen. He's not the only one, right?
Right, so according to the National Police Agency data, there's been an increase in these false reports and subsequent punishments as well. So the number of false police reports went from 4,153 in 2021 to over 5,000 last year. However, the police are getting way more stringent about prosecuting these crimes. So from 90% of the total cases brought up charges against them in 2021 to 96 last year. So definitely, if you think it's funny or it's a prank or it's just a joke,
just don't.
It's not. It's such a waste of police resources. And while they're dispatched to these fake scenes of crime, what if there's a real crime that happens?
Exactly. Yeah. We don't want to divert our resources to people who need them. All right, lastly, we have to have a happy one. So this is a heartwarming story, a story of consideration that I think we can all learn from, right?
We can, and that's why we're all talking about this small action, but it's so heartwarming, and it really kind of restores your faith in humanity after all that. So say you lost your credit card, and then you get a message that it's been used. And then you would get so mad, right? But, evidence to the contrary. So a man in his 60s earlier this month received a text message on his phone, the usual, your card, you spent however much money here. Well, it said that the card was used to charge 300 won. 300won at a convenience store.
Okay.
So he thought nothing of it, and he was like, well, maybe it was just like a transaction fee, whatever.
Right.
And then the following day, he discovered he lost his card. So he called the bank and reported it missing. The bank called him back and told him, well, there has been some unusual activity in that the last place the card was used was at the convenience store, but the amount was so small. So the bank said that the card might still be there. You should go check it out.
Yes.
He did. He went to the store. Not only did he find the card, but a baggie with 300 won inside. Because they spent 300 won. Right. So what happened was, he looked at the CCTV footage. 2 high school girls found that card. And then they were trying to kind of alert the card's owner of where it was. So what they did, pretty genius, they went into the convenience store. They picked up a lollipop and they used the card to buy it. Because I'm assuming they didn't want to charge too much money on the card because that would be, it would be problematic. And then gave the card to the convenience store's owner along with 300 won.
Okay, because I was going to say,
so they paid him back.
Why did they pay with a credit card?
Right, so they paid him back. So, in order for, and then asked the convenience store worker to give this card and the money to the card's owner.
How smart is this?
How brilliant, right?
Yes.
So many people were astonished by their ingenuity.
Yes.
However, some comments online said that, there are cases of a good deed never going unpunished because netizens pointed out that there were similar cases where the card's owner, I have to say it's pretty ungrateful, accused the finder of stealing. Not in this case, the man here was very grateful.
Yes.
But there were other cases where somebody charged a very small amount on the card to kind of let the card owner know that your card is here. But the person was like, well, you used my card without my approval or my.
I mean, technically speaking, legally speaking, that's like gray ground. It is.
Right.
So we
because
need to be really
it
careful.
is technically true because under the law, someone who uses or sells a stolen or lost credit card may be subject to under 7 years in prison or 50 million won in fines.
Wow.
Of course, I doubt any judge will sentence someone to actual prison sentence for.
But it's on the books, right?
Right, exactly. It's on the books, and you're going to have to go through major headache, lawyers and whatnot. So, yeah. Best thing is I usually just take it, if I'm feeling really generous, I take it to the bank that says so on the card, and they'll be able to contact the person.
Sure.
Yeah.
And, for us people who lose credit cards.
Oh, are we looking? She.
I keep on leaving it. I can't say the coffee shop name that right next to us.
Right,
that one.
right.
And our producer's laughing because we've done it, both of us. And then 사장님 always keeps our credit
it,
card.
and he knows, and he's like, "Can you just give it to?"
And then the last time I left it, it was for over a week, and
a week.
It was my husband's credit card, and then I didn't want to tell him. You know the talk. You don't want to have the talk like, honey,
so
can
I
you
left
just
your credit card, right?
Yeah, so. As a last resort, and I didn't even expect it to be there. I was just like, 사장님 혹시 그거 흰색이랑 파란색. He goes, oh, is that yours?
Oh my
I have
god!
it.
Oh my god!
Anyhow, that's why that look of
hilarious.
Horror. Yes. All right. Well, we're gonna call it a wrap for all the issues. We'll talk with you tomorrow. Thank you, Haley.
Have a great day.
And with that, let's get to our traffic and weather. It is now 8:15. This is your traffic and weather. There was an accident on Runo Samsungdaero going towards Chino Bridge. It's been cleared, the accident itself, but it is still causing some backup there. There's congestion on Bunyeonglo from Kumsa Ramp to Suyang Tunnel. Also looking real slow on Jungangdaero from Songgong three-way intersection to Samjeon intersection. It is currently 18 degrees under some kind of cloudy skies right now. The daytime high, though, will go up to 25, and we can look forward to the sun peeking out later on in the day. And as I said earlier, there is some light rain forecast for the eastern regions of Gangwon and northern Gyeongbuk, parts of Jeonnam and Gyeongnam as well. So what does that mean? You're going to have to be extra careful as visibility might be affected and cause slippery roads out there. Regardless, please be careful out there today. This was your traffic and weather. So this is Something Stupid by Robbie Williams.
I know I stand in line until you think you have the time to spend an evening with me. And if we go someplace to dance, I know that there's a chance you won't be leaving with me. Then afterwards we drop into a quiet little place and have a drink or two. And then I go and spoil it all by saying something stupid like I love you. I can see it in your eyes, you still despise the same old lies you heard the night before. And though it's just a line to you, for me it's true, I'll never seem so right before. Every day to find some clever lines to say to make the meaning come true. But then I think I'll wait until the evening gets late and I'm alone with you. The time is right, your perfume fills my head, the stars get red and all the nights so blue. And then I go and spoil it all by saying something stupid like I love you. The time is right, your perfume fills my head, the stars get red and all the nights so blue. And then I go and spoil it all by saying something stupid like I love you. 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 I
Welcome back, everybody. Today we're talking about something nice. We need something nice to talk about in this, era of doom and gloom, especially with the high prices of everything. So we're talking about random acts of kindness. So I was looking through your messages and some of you have some really interesting ones. So 윤정 Waver saying 버스 탔는데 교통카드가 안 되는 사람 교통비 내 카드로 대신 결제해주기 몇 번 해줬어요. So very similar to what Haley was talking about. She has paid with her own transportation card for somebody else whose card was not working. And like I said earlier, I've had that happen for whatever reason. It was like an error on my card. And then I started sweating because I was you want to explain to people no, there's money on the card, but it's just for whatever reason, or the app, it wasn't working properly. And I've had a stranger pay for mine before. And then I kept on saying, oh, can I get your bank information? And they were just like, no, it's okay. So what a really sweet gesture, 윤정 Waver. Also, we have 태진 Waver who says 저는 작은 것부터 매일 아침 5시 집에 나설 때 아들 딸 방 입을 잘 덮고 있나 방문 열어 확인하고 출근합니다. For his son and daughter every morning as he leaves the house. You leave the house at 5 a.m. Wow. He checks on his kids, yes, to make sure that their tummies are covered with their blankets and that they're okay. Yes. So in terms of other messages that have come in, let's see. We have 고수 Waver who says 별호랑 착한 일 생각이 안 나는데 앞으로 배려하고 피디님 좀 예쁘게 적어주세요. 제가 잘못 읽은 게 아니라 피디님이 아풍로라였어요. 앞으로 배려하고 착하게 살아보도록 노력해 볼게요. She always does this to me. She writes wrong stuff on the board and then I read it and then she laughs. I think she kind of enjoys it. So basically he's saying, I haven't really done anything in the past, but in the future I will try to practice, random acts of kindness. So I think it's the mentality that counts. But what about Tommy? He says, I gave my umbrella to a woman who was at a bus station. So there were so many comments oh, is this the beginning of a love story? By the way, hello, people. He's happily married. So he said basically she was just alone and absolutely wet. That was a really nice gesture. I'll be back with our first of 2 special interviews. This is our first special interview. So as you know, we talked about this yesterday and even last week leading up to yesterday about this trilateral summit between South Korea, Japan, China. So this was the first time in more than 4 years that this summit was held. And the leaders were talking about President Yoon Suk-yeol, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, Chinese Premier Li Qiang. They issued a joint declaration covering cooperation on a range of issues. But let's talk about what happened. We have invited Professor Lee Min-jung, Associate Professor in the Division of International Studies at Koongju National University. She's on the air with us. Hi, Professor. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, good morning.
Yes. So can you tell us what was discussed during the Trilateral Summit and what the outcomes were at the end?
Well, it has been a while, as just you explained. It has been more than 4 years, 4 years and 5 months since the last time. At the same time, again, it was the 25th anniversary of the trilateral mechanism, again, the Korea, Japan, China cooperative mechanism. Here in Korea, in Seoul, we do have a trilateral cooperation Secretariat as well. But anyhow, after those COVID-19 pandemic situations and after pretty chilled relations, for example, between Korea and Japan, finally, again, over the past 2 days, we did have the Trilateral summit finally in Seoul. Actually, this Trilateral specifically, it is more about economic issues rather than the security. Historically, it has been so. Following that historical experiences, this specific summit too, it looks like the three leaders have been much more focusing on economic cooperation between the neighbor. Again, we are neighbors to each other. For me, again, it was pretty much encouraging moment to see finally, again, the three leaders got together and they agreed on the importance of the neighbor and they agreed on the further cooperation for the economic prosperity of the all three countries' people.
Yes. And so, how significant was all of this? And then we obviously, had the failed, but anyhow, the reconnaissance satellite launch by North Korea as well. The context of everything, the timing of everything.
Well, before the Trilateral summit was held, again, the concern in this region was, again, the North Korea, Russia, China, and even Iran. Again, Washington actually, they have shown their concerns about the cooperation, security cooperation among those four parties. And ever since the Russia invaded the Ukraine, now the war has been just still going on, and it has been more than just 2 years. So-called new Cold War mood was pretty much dominant in this region. Of course, we do know, and we did knew, again, China cannot be really one of the, how would you say, the kind of the team, again, who is trying to be very against, again, U.S.-centered West team, because China is a trading country, huge, gigantic trading country. So China's position cannot be the same with the North Korea or with the Russia or with even Iran. No. So we did have hope, again, that China can come back to the negotiations or like dialogue tables with other, again, the neighbors, such as, again, our country, again, South Korea and Japan. And finally, again, it was realized. So I do guess, I think China doesn't want to be regarded as just one of the team. Again, the team is much more against the liberal democracies.
I see. Well, in terms of what the countries agreed on in terms of pursuing peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula. What did they agree on, and what were their differences with North Korea, particularly concerning denuclearization? So safe to assume that not all three parties are on the same page, right, Professor?
Yeah, North Korea is always like watching very cautiously the other side, and they are always calculating their timing. And during the summit, they said they're going to launch the reconnaissance satellite again, and they failed. This morning we found out, it was a failure.
Yes.
But anyhow, that kind of behavior is, of course, is trying to capture probably China on its own side. However, again, as I mentioned earlier, even though China's interpretation, China's position cannot be identical with South Korea and Japan, Japan, because simply China is bordering again to North Korea, and then they have been backing up economically North Korea because of the concern, mainly because of the concern of the, for example, huge human outflow from the north to China, or many other those real direct concerns. So China's again the position cannot be identical with South Korea. We understand that. However, more like in general senses, again, they do also share common goals with us and with Japan and even with the United States, which is, again, the nuclear-free Korean Peninsula. Because, again, North Korea's, of course, nuclear program has been undermining the existing nuclear governance regime, global regime. And definitely China can't support again that kind of idea. Again, China is one of the P5 members of the UN Security Council as well, even though they are pretty much sympathetic with the North Korea's, again, their kind of strategy. But at the same time, I don't think China can be fully happy with North Korea's nuclear program. So, in brief, again, all three parties were able to agree on that. Again, our common goal is, again, the nuclear-free Korean Peninsula and regional stability, again, which might not be fully satisfactory for some, again, audiences, even in this country. However, it takes time. Again, it cannot be just solved with the one magical click. I'll be more patient to watch all this trilateral cooperation.
Right. Well, looking at the outline cooperation in the 6 key areas, briefly, can you tell us about what obstacles we might face as, 3 countries? Yes, some cooperation, but also we have our own interests to protect, respectively.
Yes. For me, actually, from the joint declaration, what is most interesting or most encouraging was all the 3 leaders, actually, they emphasized the importance of people-to-people exchange, people-to-people cooperation. They really emphasized the bottom-up momentum for the regional prosperity and regional cooperation. That was pretty, pretty different from probably the past experiences. I think that those kind of remarks indicate our reality. Again, U.S. absolutely, Korea's and Japan's military alliance, and we somewhat, of course, dependent on the U.S.'s nuclear umbrella, and U.S., of course, is one of the key trading partner as well. However, in terms of physical distance, again, the China is literally right there, whereas, whereas, again, the U.S. is still away. It's pretty remote, physically, geographically. What I'm trying to say is, people-to-people exchange among these 3 countries is so natural, and it has been going on regardless of whatever those political difficulty. Again, I appreciate that specific part. And as you just pointed out, of course, we do have some concerns too. For example, if we really opened up to one another, some kind of side effects can be emerging too. For example, criminal things, those kind of things can be increasing too.
Well, Professor, I'm sorry to cut you off, but we're going to have to wrap up our discussion for today as we continue to look forward to the cooperation between and among the 3 countries. Thank you for your expertise and time. We do appreciate it. Once again, everybody, this was Professor Im-eun-jung. We talked about the Trilateral Summit. And by the way, the next summit will be held in Japan, and we'll follow that. We'll be back with our second interview.
You're now listening to the world's most reliable morning show, Morning Wave in Busan with Catherine. Text in to BEFM # 9050 for 101. You can also reach us for free through our YouTube live stream or on Kakao Talk. Begin your morning with Catherine, and don't forget to reboot your day after lunch. Stay tuned for Steve Hatherley Reboot every day from 2 to 4 p.m.
This is our second special interview, and we're going to talk about something that we did mention in our news a few days back. So on the 20th local time, Chief Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, the ICC, Karim Khan, announced that he was seeking arrest warrants for both Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar on charges of crimes against humanity. So what does this actually mean? We have invited Professor Victor Peskin, Associate Professor in the School of Politics and Global Studies at Arizona State University, to address some of our questions. Hi, Professor. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. Good morning.
Yes. So can we look at the main factors that led the ICC to publicly announce the arrest warrant request for not just the Hamas leader, but also the Israeli Prime Minister, rather than, I guess, waiting for them to be granted? I mean, what do you make of this?
Absolutely. Well, of course, this all revolves around the violence and terrible loss of life that has happened in Israel and in the Gaza Strip since October 7th. And at the International Criminal Court, or ICC, the chief prosecutor, who is the official and the office of the prosecutor, initiates cases. He in this circumstance has the option of keeping a request secret or sealed, and then can request that the pretrial chamber of 3 judges confirm arrest warrants and also keep those sealed as well. So in this case, just as you mentioned, Karim Khan, the chief prosecutor, announced on May 20th his application to this panel of judges for the issuance of arrest warrants, which could take a number of weeks or months for a decision. And I think the decision is really based on trying to, educate the world in regard to the purpose of international criminal justice, which is in part to hopefully deter further alleged violations of international humanitarian law or laws of war. And also by publicizing it, he can also, educate people and keep it transparent in terms of the reasons why he is seeking arrest warrants, which obviously are very controversial in some quarters.
Right. And so speaking of that controversy, Professor, I mean, okay, for the leader of Hamas, some people might say they get it. And certain, areas and people raising eyebrows at, but why Benjamin Netanyahu? Why also the Israeli Prime Minister? Can you explain maybe the reasoning behind this?
Sure. It's, it's a total of 3 Hamas leaders who are named in the request for arrest warrants, and the Israeli Prime Minister and Defense Minister. And the prosecutor is alleging that in the case of the 2 Israeli would-be suspects, that they are implicated in alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity relating directly to allegations stemming from issues of famine and starvation. That allegation has to be vetted by the pretrial chamber. The pretrial chamber won't determine guilt or innocence, but will determine if the prosecutor has a substantial basis to proceed, right? And the same goes for the atrocities committed against over 1,000 Israeli citizens on October 7. The prosecutor has to make a strong enough case that he has enough evidence to proceed to trial. So that's the stage we are at right now.
I see. So can we talk about the response? Because particularly, the U.S. having, as everybody well knows, a close relationship with Israel. What's the response been like, generally speaking?
Well, the response from President Biden and Secretary Blinken has been very strong against the court's actions,
right?
And very strong in favor of Israel. And you've heard this, criticism or even attack on the court that, echoes Israeli officials' attack on the prosecutor for purportedly creating a moral equivalence between what is cast as far worse crimes carried out by Hamas and military conduct that Israel says is not criminal, right? So the complaint rhetorically is that by presenting the request for arrest warrants at the same time that the prosecutor has shamefully or despicably created some kind of, equivalence. Now, the prosecutor and chief prosecutors at these international war crimes tribunals, they will investigate a situation or a conflict.
Yes.
And their duty is to follow the evidence. And if they believe that there is sufficient evidence of war crimes or crimes against humanity or even genocide, which is not charged here, they have the discretion to bring charges against those most responsible for the worst crimes from two or more sides of a conflict. It does not matter under international humanitarian law whether suspects come from a democracy or are allies of powerful Western states, or if they come from rebel groups or authoritarian regimes.
Yes.
International humanitarian law in principle is supposed to be blind to those factors.
I see.
And so I think the prosecutors argued that the ongoing issue of the blocking of humanitarian aid is constituting war crimes and crimes against humanity, and that it's urgent, according to him, that the world and the court act immediately in an effort to bring these cases to justice. That's his argument. Israel and the U.S. strongly refute that, as you know.
Yes. And so with Khan's strategy of going public, not sealing the application for the arrest warrant, then how does it aim to deter what is going on, war crimes, crimes against humanity in this ongoing conflict?
It's a great question. Deterrence is a very elusive concept. It's very hard to substantiate in cases from Bosnia or Sierra Leone or Liberia. All may share some similarities, but are different.
Yes.
So far in the week since the ICC action, you have the International Court of Justice calling for an end to the fighting in Rafah. You have the terrible incident yesterday where reportedly, according to Palestinian health officials, 45 people were killed. So deterrence is based also on other factors as well. So it remains to be seen if this action will deter. But also the chief prosecutor had another option available. If we go back 15 years, the chief prosecutor asked and received a sealed or secret warrant.
Yes.
Because the Congolese opposition leader, Jean-Pierre Bemba, was in Europe. And by keeping it sealed and handing it to Belgian authorities, they were able, unbeknownst to him, to arrest him. So that's an option too, right? To have not made it public and to have seen if Hamas or Israeli officials would travel to the territory of an ICC state and then increase the chances of arrest. The same question happened when the ICC saw arrest warrants publicly for the leader of Sudan, Omar al-Bashir. There's questions that if you announce it publicly, that person, that suspect, won't go to a state that might arrest him.
Yes.
And so now the question really is, beyond the controversy, right, is if the pretrial chamber issues these warrants, is there any chance at all for all 5 suspects to be arrested? But by making it public, arguably, you make it more difficult. I'm not judging the merits of the case.
Right.
I'm just putting that out, that it could have been sealed, and then the Hamas, the head of Hamas in Qatar might have traveled to an ICC member state and then
Right.
Be apprehended more easily.
Right. For our final question, though, for you as we wrap up our discussion today, Professor, is that if these arrest warrants are approved, if they're upheld, what could we expect? I mean, I don't expect, for maybe Benjamin Netanyahu to be traveling to any ICC, member state jurisdiction, correct?
Right. I mean, if we go back to the former leader of Sudan, Omar al-Bashir, he actually kind of, he went to certain African states that were friendly to him that were ICC members, and they didn't arrest him. So, but EU states, even those, some like Germany that are very strongly pro-Israel, have indicated that they would have a duty to arrest him. So if these warrants are issued, Netanyahu's world shrinks very rapidly. He will likely come to the United States. And so it's unlikely he would be arrested, barring any, maintenance issues with his plane that would, need him to do an emergency landing in Canada or Portugal or any other ICC member state that would have an obligation to arrest him.
I see. Well, of course, this is a fluid story. We're still waiting the decision. But in the meantime, thank you so much for explaining this to our listeners as we know it. Thank you for joining us today, Professor.
Thank you so much for your interest in this story.
This is Professor Victor Peskin. It's time for Bonnie, the health, and Bonnie's beautiful hair. How are you?
Focused today.
Yes.
Good. I'm doing good.
Yay. We're going to dive right in because we had two special interviews. I want to get as much out of the segment as I can.
Okay.
The health. So what do you have for us?
Okay, so today we're covering growth mindset.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we're covering mental health issues because we usually we cover health, nutrition, physical, what we're putting in our body, but also we want to cover mental health. So,
important.
What's on the inside is just as important. So growth mindset, we cannot talk about growth mindset without mentioning Carol Dweck.
Okay.
So Carol Dweck is a professor of psychology from Stanford University, and she's one of the world's leading researchers on motivation and mindset.
Okay.
So she's taught, she received her PhD from Yale, but she's taught all over Columbia, Harvard, and she's the one who coined this term, growth mindset.
Okay.
And she's done over 30 years of research. And she originally started this because she wanted to know why certain students, when they're faced with failure, certain students thrive.
Yes.
And certain students do not. So they kind of give up when they're faced with failure. But certain students, they actually get better. It drives them. It gives them some sort of motivation when they fail.
Yes.
So she started doing this research. And she's proven that the way that students think about their own intelligence and their ability actually really affects their success and their achievement. And the big takeaway is that not just for students, but for ourselves, adults, we can change this mindset.
Oh, we
so
can.
We're not fixed in one mindset. We can actually change the way that we think.
Okay.
And I'll kind of go into that a little bit later. But our unconscious and conscious thoughts really affect us. And just even simple wording, how you simply might change the wording in your head or what you say to others can really have an effect. So with the mindsets, she has a theory of two different mindsets. There's fixed and then there's growth. So the fixed mindset, you kind of believe that your success is based on your innate ability and intelligence, and it's fixed. You have like a certain amount of talent or ability, and then that's it. And maybe your certain talent or ability is for one thing. You know, some people are like, oh, I'm not good at sports. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at that. And so you have this thought in your head, this fixed thought, like, oh, I'm not going to be good at this. So you don't really try, or you give up really easily.
I get it. Okay.
The other mindset, growth mindset, you believe that the success is based on how hard you work, how much effort you put in. So your talent, your ability, it has the possibility of growth, and you can actually change this. So I'm going to go into a little detail about both of these mindsets, and you can kind of think about which one you might fall into.
Sure.
So the fixed mindset, you might avoid challenges or trying new things because they're unfamiliar and you're kind of scared of failure.
Sure.
Right? It's really hard to accept failure or mistakes as well. But if you have a growth mindset, you view those challenges as opportunities, and you see the failures and mistakes as learning lessons and as opportunities to grow. So you're always willing to kind of step outside that comfort zone, and you realize the potential of trying new things. You're not scared of them.
Okay.
Whereas someone in the fixed mindset might be like, oh, I've never done that before. There's a high risk of failure, so I'm not going to try it.
Okay.
But growth mindset, you realize there's high risk comes high outcome as well. Another one, fixed mindset, you're not open to receive criticism or feedback.
You take it personally?
You might know some people like this, right? So any kind of feedback, they take it offensively or they take it personally.
Oh, got it.
But if you have a growth mindset, you see that feedback as constructive and you welcome it in. So anything anybody else says, you welcome it, you take it in, you really listen to it.
Yes, yes.
For the fixed mindset, you're focused on proving yourself to others, and you see others' success as a threat.
Like it's a zero-sum game. Like if this person is succeeding, that means I'm failing.
Yeah. So you might look at somebody else's success and you go, why am I not like that? And then you kind of feel worse about yourself. But if you're in a growth mindset, you're focused on the process, not the end result. So you might not be thinking about like, oh, I need to achieve this sort of thing to succeed. Just the process in itself is a success. And you're actually inspired by other success. So you don't see it as a threat. So I'll give you an example, and you might try to think of yourself in this situation.
Okay.
So if you're in a class of any kind of sort, maybe it's an academic class or a physical exercise class.
Sure.
If you look around and you're looking at somebody who's worse than you, okay, you look around and you're like, oh, who's not as good as I am? Or maybe they're making mistakes and you're like, yes.
That person is even more inflexible. Like they can stretch their legs even less than I can.
Yeah. So you look at them and you're like, oh, great. I'm not as bad as they are.
I'm not the worst one.
Yeah. So it makes you feel better. This is someone in kind of like a fixed mindset.
Okay.
If you're in growth mindset, you're actually looking for people in the room that are better than you.
Oh, better than you.
And you're looking at them for inspiration, motivation. You're looking at what they're doing and you're thinking, oh, how can I be more like that? What are they doing that I'm not doing? How can I improve myself?
How can I get there? How can I get to the splits?
Yes. So you might think, which kind of person are you? Are you someone that looks at people that are worse than you to feel better about yourself? Or are you someone who looks for inspiration and motivation in those around you?
But I wonder if like we can have a little bit of both. Like, for example, I was thinking about this as you were talking about it. I was like, I don't think I'm 100% like a growth mindset. I feel, but I do lean more to that side. But there's a part of me that has a little bit of the fix, like, you know, and then I try to like, you know, talk myself up. Like, oh, you're not doing that bad. Oh, you know, like, I don't think I'm like 100% either which way.
Well, and these mindsets are kind of in place since we were really little, like since we're students. And one of the things that you can do to kind of foster the growth mindset as teachers or adults or as parents is not praising the intelligence. So since we were young, a lot of, you hear this a lot, good job. Oh, you're so smart. You're so smart.
Especially in like Korea or Asian families. I mean, it is very common. I'm talking about all across the board, but especially
it really
so,
is.
right?
Definitely. And even as on your papers as a kid, I remember my teachers always writing at the top, good job.
Yes.
Good job. Check, check. So from a very young age, we're kind of taught, oh, if I'm smart, it's if I get 100%, if I reach this level, then I'm smart.
Yes.
But those words are really kind of dangerous because you're putting in that fixed mindset in somebody. So instead of praising the intelligence, you want to praise the effort.
Like great effort.
Yeah. Oh, I saw that you were super patient. Oh, you put a lot of work into this. You put a lot of effort.
Sure.
Because then it kind of doesn't limit the student. If you say, good job, you're so smart, you're kind of telling the student, oh, you've reached that plateau. This is smart.
That's it.
You reached it. right? So you don't need to
Good
be
for you.
challenged anymore. And then the students are scared of challenge. Or, I mean, even adults.
Yes.
You're scared of that challenge because you don't want to fail. Because if you fail, then you're not smart anymore.
Yes.
And that's not what we want in place. We don't want our success or achievement to be based on that plateau. We want to see the process. And everything that we do, that's part of the success. You're achieving just by doing, just by being in the process. So even if you fail, that's part of the process. That's okay.
So how do we, if we are more of a fixed mindset kind of person, is there, you said earlier, you can change that?
Yeah, I mean, just by the words that you use for yourself as well. So instead of, if something is really difficult, instead of saying, I can't do this, this is a really powerful word to attach onto. You say, I can't do this yet.
Yet, even, just one word.
Yes, there's lots of books and stuff even written on this. But that yet puts in place that we're in the process of learning. And it's not the achievement. It's not that you can't do it, right? It's not a fixed outcome.
At least, you leave that possibility. Maybe not right now.
Yeah.
But maybe
with more work, with more determination, motivation. Yeah, you keep trying. And if you don't achieve it, that's okay. The process is what's important. You tried. That's what we want to get at here. And if you fail, that's fine. The failure is great. The failure is actually something like as a marker to tell you, oh, maybe you need to do a little bit more of this or a little bit more of that. But that yet is a really important thing to attach on.
I'm smiling because I'm thinking back to all the times. And, I love my parents. My dad really didn't harp on me with grades or anything. But I remember the first time I got an A-. And then my mom's like, what's that little thing by the A? She literally was, she's like, because in Korea, I don't think they have it's just A or A+. They don't have A-.
Yeah.
And she's like, what is that? 이거 뭐냐고. I'm like, it's still in the realm of A.
Yeah, right.
But it's
still up there.
It's still
right?
an A, but it's just, kind of borderline A. And she was just like, oh, minus. She kept on harping on, why is there a minus there? I was just like, okay, next time I'll get rid of the minus.
Yeah.
No, but still, it's I think we do that to our kids. We might be doing that inadvertently.
Oh, yeah. And the good job thing you hear a lot.
That's
true.
good
job. Like I said,
I gotta stop saying
teachers,
that to my students.
Yeah, I mean, just a little bit more detail. You did a really good job at doing
this.
What?
And then
being specific.
Compared to last time, I mean, I see the improvement. I see your effort.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. And even just that one word, yet, holds endless possibilities.
Yes,
I love that.
Practice it.
Yes, even to ourselves. Yet. The best is yet to come, right?
Yes.
So we will definitely look forward to next week with you as well. Thank you so much for bringing this to us.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Everybody, this was Bonnie with The Health. What a great way to wrap up our morning. We talked about some not so great news. We talked about the price of everything going up. We also talked about growth mindset today with Bonnie. What a great way to end our morning. Have a lovely day. This is Yes Sir, That's My Baby by Frank Sinatra. Have a good one. Bye-bye, everybody.
Yes, sir, that's my baby now. Yes, ma'am, we've decided. No, ma'am, we ain't gonna hide it. Yes, ma'am, you're invited now. By the way, when we walk up to the preacher, I'll say, yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, I don't mean maybe. Yes, sir, that's my baby now. By the way,